You'd thought you'd seen the last of this beautiful face for FM18, hadn't you? Fear not, we've still got a few more videos in us. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Backing the Boro. If you haven't watched everything that went on last week, go and watch that before you go any further. This is our nostalgia episode. This is the episode where we go back and look at everything that's gone on in this save. And it's also the episode in which I hit the retire button. It's very, very sad, I know. But we're not going to be about sadness. We're going to be about looking back at all of the great players that we've had in this save. Plus, towards the end of the video, I'm going to be announcing the shortlists for player of the series and the voting for our team of the series. All the links to that you can vote down in the description. And we'll do a video later in the week where we'll announce your player of the series and your team of the series. But this is the games version of the team of the series. So we did have a couple of players, in fact, no, one player sneak into this team right at the death. Nick Ripert has just made it in this season. But this is our all-time best 11 according to Football Manager. So in goal, Viricic. I mean, I would have gone Harry's probably. But Viricic, I mean, he had a good run, a good 5 years, won some stuff with us. Did he win the league with us? So Viricic won the Premier League with us and the FA Cup with us. And for a long time, he was our record signing. And I guess bringing him in was a bit of a difference maker. When it looked like we might have got relegated, we brought in a world-class goalkeeper when we really... Okay, I'll let you have Viricic as our goalkeeper in team of the series. A back four of Joksimovic, who's just about to return to the club now, rejoins us in a week's time. We signed him when he was 18. He's 20 days away from becoming, not Dynamics, 20 days away from being able to take English nationality, but he is a homegrown player at Nuneaton, I think. Just double check. Yeah, he's a homegrown player here at Nuneaton. We had him for a very good 5 years before selling him for a lot of money, and we've just bought him back cheaper. I can certainly say Joe Anderson probably gave him a run for his money, but I'll let you have Joksimovic at left back as well. Centre-back partnership of Ripert and Sawyer. They're certainly the two most memorable, I would say, at centre-back. Ripert obviously has had his Ripert moments over the years, but he's been with us 4 seasons now. He was an absolute steal at 5 million quid. Walked straight into our team, had a bit of an injury that year, but has been pretty much ever present when he's been fit. And he's been there while we've won everything. So he's been with us for 2 Premier League wins, a Champions League win, an FA Cup win, 2 Carabao Cup wins, and the all-important Community Shield win, plus European Champions Cup Defender of the Season. Oh, 3rd place. That was this season, I think. But still, you know, it's good. And alongside him, Josh Sawyer, who's been back at the club for a little while now. He's now one of our first team coaches. He came back 2 seasons ago, but he was with us for a long, long time. 11 seasons at the club. What a career this man has had. One of only 2 players who played... he did play in the Premier League. Just checking. One of only 2 players, along with James Ball, who's played with us in every division from the National League all the way up to the Premier League. Played an awful lot of games for us. Was our player of the season in our Championship promotion year. And just an absolute hero. Josh Sawyer, very much deserving of his place in the all-time back four. Coupler's in at right back, and I can't think of a better right back than we've had. He's another one who was an absolute bargain, 1.7 million quid. He's been there while we've won everything. Name a better right back we've had in the series. In fact, when I was putting my shortlists together, I struggled to come up with another right back who we've had who's been any good. So Coupler, I think, is a bit of a shoo-in as the right back of the series. This midfield 3, I don't agree with James Ball being in the midfield rather than attacking midfielder, but I guess we had to do the 4-3-1-2, and you had to get Ball and Nuhu in somehow. So James Ball, just like towards the end of his Nuneaton career, is going to be playing in the midfield 3 rather than as an attacking midfielder, alongside Skelton and Wanda. Imagine if we'd have ever had that midfield 3 playing together at their best. Goodness me, that would have been awesome. Skelton will always feel like the one that got away. I'm still a little bit upset that we never managed to sign him permanently. He was obviously a key part of a very key time in the club's history. We signed him on loan when we were in League 2. Was it our first season in League 2? And with that season, he basically led us to promotion from League 2. He was incredible. 15 goals, 18 assists. A 7.6 down in League 2. But then he was awesome for us in League 1 as well. Was almost as good again the next year in League 1. We tried to sign him permanently. We actually had the money. This was the summer, I think, that we signed Miles Darwin permanently for £1 million. We definitely had the money, but in the end, he went to Derby. and never really played. So we managed to get him on loan again the following season, and he was brilliant again. But he was so good in the Championship for us that he then got into the Derby team, where he stayed, and kind of his career went a little bit wrong after that. Derby got relegated. He went to Celtic, but never really established himself there. Went to Wolves for a lot of money, but still only in the Championship. Got his one season in the Premier League, and then just back down into the Championship and League One again. He was probably never a Premier League player, but goodness me, was he good for us? Can't believe he's 35 now. It's insane. So he definitely deserves a spot in the midfield three. We all know all about Wanda, similar to Vujicic. We looked like we were getting relegated. I remember you all mocking me when I signed players from relegated Stoke to try and save us in the Premier League, but Vujicic actually came in at Christmas. I think Wanda came in at Christmas. Vujicic and Nogueira came in the pre-season before, and we looked like we were going down this season, but we brought Wanda in, made him captain straight away. It was a time when we had no team leaders. The likes of Sawyer and Ball and all them had moved on, as we'd had a bit of a clear out to try and become a Premier League team. I think we were pretty much relegated. We were going down. Wanda came in, was incredible, captain straight away. What a player for so very long. He's not been a regular for the last couple of years, but for what he did for Nuneaton, he definitely should be in the all-time best 11. And James Ball, what can you say about James Ball? He's been at Nuneaton for 20 years. We signed him. I didn't realise, here's a thing I didn't realise till I was prepping this video. We actually signed him on trial when he first left Liverpool before he went to Aston Villa. So we had him for a week's trial, I guess. I don't even remember it happening. Anyone who really tracks back in the videos might be able to find James Ball on trial before he signed permanently. I mean, he did sign for us on loan a couple of weeks later, so it looks like he came to us on trial, went to Villa, and then we knew he was good, so we brought him back on loan a couple of days later. He signed for Villa on the 7th of August. He was on loan with us on the 10th of August, and he never left. He was on loan for a number of seasons. He's another one who we just kept bringing back on loan until his Villa contract expired. So he was with us in the National League, just like Sawyer played for us in all divisions, apart from the National League North. But we had him on loan 2 years in non-league, a year in League Two, signed him on a free when we were in League Two as well. That performance, bear in mind, that was the same season Skelton was tearing League Two apart. What a midfield we had that year. But then he just kept going, and it was unbelievable. He carried on scoring goals for fun in League One. He may have been a little found out when he got to the Championship. I think pretty much from this point onwards, he was kind of with us for nostalgia because of what he'd done to get us to that point. But he was still a good Championship player, was brilliant again when we went back down to League One, carried that form through back into the Championship, and then he started to get a little bit old, but we did give him his 4 Premier League games, which he earned with 430 games for Nuneaton, 99 goals. How did we not get that man a 100th goal, 109 assists, a career average rating of 7.09 for a player who played with us from National League up to Premier League? And he wasn't done then. He had a year sat at home eating toasted cheese sandwiches and doing crosswords before he came back as our head of youth development. He's been here for 6 years now and signed the wonder kid England striker Simon Ganley, who'll, when we do our 10 years in the future, I fully expect him to go on to become an Nuneaton legend. So he's still making great contributions to the club now, 20 years on from when we signed him originally. What a player. But talking of what a player, I don't see how anyone but this man wins Player of the Series. Sir Enoch Nuhu, yet another one who came to us on loan first, showing our we've used loans well on this series. So we got him on loan from Dusseldorf for over £1 million. He came in again. I think this was the same season Wanda arrived. Maybe even the season before. We weren't a very good team, but we had a young midfielder on loan from Germany who managed to get 13 goals for us. Finished our top scorer that season. Didn't even average a 7, which I don't... My brain doesn't remember that he only got a 6.96, but I remember him being top scorer, and we just spent all of the money on him. With 5 million quid, right, yeah, of course you can have 5 million quid and the rest is history. He's never had a season where he's not got into double figures for goals, even when he's not been a regular starter. He's always averaged over a 7. He had a bit of a wobble there, but he's just been brilliant. And how can we forget his Champions League final performance? And what a collection of trophies in his career. An FA Cup, Community Shield, Premier League, Community Shield, Carabao Cup, Premier League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Champions League. What a player. Serenuk Nuhu. Up front, we've got Dan Fisher, who... Oh, I thought he was at Port Vale. Hold on. Did he go to Port... Oh, he was at Port Vale. He's just moved to Millwall. Okay, so that explains that. But Dan Fisher, I've tried constantly to bring this man back into our backroom staff. He's not having it. He wants to be ahead of youth development. And I prefer James Ball, so James Ball stays. But we got this guy on loan from Bristol City when we were in League Two after him destroying us repeatedly for Gloucester when we were in the National League with him. He was top scorer for 2 years in a row in the National League, ruined us, and we managed to get him on loan the season we got promoted. And certainly in the lower leagues, this man scored goals for fun. 34 goals for us in his first season as a permanent player. 34 goals and 22 assists. I mean, that is a crazy season. I think that's probably still our record for goals in a season. We'll check that in a second. But he kept scoring goals in League One and in the Championship. Similar to James Ball, he was never quite good enough to push on to the next level. Chose to leave and drop back down to League Two rather than pushing on to the Premier League with us. But Dan Fisher was a superstar. And he partners Charlie Jones, who's now 26. But look at that, 36 goals in 39 appearances for England. It's ridiculous. He's only been with us 5 years. 27 million quid for a player who'd never scored a goal in the Premier League, or one goal in the Premier League. But he'd got 14 goals in the Championship the year before. Again, questions were asked. And then he proceeded to spend 5 years answering those questions. Charlie Jones, ladies and gentlemen. What a player. And then on the bench, who have we got? Dean Linus. I think Harry's is probably going to be a bit... He might accept that Vujicic should get first place. But Linus ahead of Vujicic, ahead of Nadat, as our second best keeper of the save. You can tell me if you agree with that when you do your voting. Jake Laskowski. I mean, there's another name for you from back when we were rubbish. He hasn't kept his full career. That's... Oh, is he? Can we see? No, we can't see his career. We've got bits of it there. But he signed for us, I think, as a 17-year-old and played for us all the way through from National League North up to at least the Championship before he then went on and had a pretty decent lower league career, soiled somewhat by a spell at Cambridge for 6 seasons, but nobody's perfect. That's why he's not in the starting lineup. Tom Elliott, mainly because it won't let me give him a nickname, and it took his nickname away when he retired. Sir Tom Elliott, 319 appearances at the time, all-time record appearance holder for us, scored the goals at Wembley to get us into the Football League. He basically, for those of you who weren't watching the series back then, he basically Nuhu'd the National League playoff final, and he's the reason we made it into the Football League. Plus, we met him in real life, and he was an absolute gentleman. Also on the bench, Jay Johnson, who I confess I don't really remember very much about Jay Johnson. He was with us for a decent amount of time. We signed, I think he might have been the first player we paid money for. Does that sound right? Not Backing the Boro historians will no doubt let me know, but we brought him in for an absolute bargain in League One, and he was a regular League One, Championship. When we got relegated again, and then when we got promoted, we sold him for big money and reinvested. So decent business. To my mind, not an all-time great for us though. Cedwyn Scott is another one who got away. And I still never understand how this story turned out the way it did. He could have gone on to become an absolute legend for us. A Dan Fisher-esque legend. Scored a goal every other game throughout his time at us. Joined us in non-league. Was always scoring goals all the way through. But also always moaning about money and wanting to move to a bigger club. And ultimately he left because he wouldn't sign a new contract with us. And no one else would pay him the money that he wanted. So age 27, with that goal scoring record and a team who constantly tried to sign him back, he retired. What an idiot. But he was brilliant when we had him. Joe Anderson, another absolute hero. Looking at his career stats, we bring him in the National League North. He's with us all the way through to the Championship, where we had to let him go because he wanted to leave. He said he'd done everything he could achieve at Nuneaton and wanted to go and play first team football somewhere. He'd been replaced in the team, but not before he set the all-time appearance record for us. Went and had a few seasons at Wrexham, but it wasn't long before he came home. Came back 3 years after he left as our under-18s manager. A couple of years later, goes to manage Gloucester. Was rubbish, got sacked. Came back to us as under-18s manager for another 3 years before he was lured away by Dulwich, where he was rubbish and got sacked. So we brought him back as a first team coach, where he's been for the last couple of years. He's given up the idea of being a manager now. He's just happy being a coach, and he should be part of the Nuneaton backroom staff forever because he's a club legend. And then lastly, Chris Ruggles, who, if I'm Piazza, I'm looking at this thinking, why is this fella still in the all-time greatest team ahead of me? 33 years old now. I mean, he was all right. We had him on loan for a long time. Another example of using loans well. Scored goals for fun in the Championship, League One, Championship again. When we finally signed him permanently, we were getting promoted to the Premier League. And unfortunately, he just wasn't a Premier League player. And it turned out for the rest of his career, he wasn't good enough for the Championship either, or the Scottish Premiership, or the Austrian League. He's never had that kind of form that he had playing for us. But for us, he scored a lot of goals. And for a while there, I thought he'd go on to become our all-time top goal scorer. But he did not. Let's have a look. There you go. There's a summarised version of basically what I've just done. Why is it mentioning Brodich on there when Brodich isn't in? So Brodich, honorary mention for Brodich. It's weird because he wasn't in the all-time team anywhere, but he's still playing fairly regularly for Inter. Is there anyone else who's on there? I don't understand why Brodich is mentioned. That's weird. Piazza obviously won Player of the Year this year. That was this season's Team of the Season. Tate signing of the season. Piazza Young Player of the Season. The 2023 team, we don't need to go through them in any great detail. But what I do want to do is have a look at our club records. So firstly, let's have a look to see who made it onto the Legends lists. So Malcolm Christie and Paul Colpin were there when we started. Livesey Mason, I don't get it. I don't know how he became a legend. He was alright, but he was never even a regular for us. Dan Fisher, absolutely deserved. Piazza, absolutely deserved. Kevin Chapman, absolutely deserved. On the icons list, Terry Angus was already there, but we get Cedwyn Scott as an icon. So Enoch Nuhu, only an icon. Absolutely should be a legend. Don't know why he's not a legend yet. After that Champions League performance, that makes him a legend, surely. Gaz Dean was already there. Darren McQueen had one good season for us, and apparently that was enough to make him a similar iconic level to Nuhu. Don't get it. Bradbury was already there. And then on favoured personnel, Charlie Jones, who, if he sticks around for the rest of his career, will move along there, I'm sure. Joksimovic, who now he's back, has the opportunity to move up. And Kieran Kerr, who, I mean, I don't really get it. He's a Championship player, a decent Championship striker, but he was never that great for us. He looked good until he broke his leg, and then he was never the same. But let's have a look at our records. So, most goals in a season, Livesey Mason. There you go, that's why he's a legend. 37 in a season. James Ball, all-time leading appearance holder at 430. Mason got most goals in a league season as well. Highest average rating went to Tyrone Marsh in 2021 in his one good season that he had, where he got a 7.90 from 27 appearances. I remember Tyrone Marsh. Youngest player was still Mitchell Glover, who I messed him up, didn't I? Everyone who was playing along with me was all saying how good Mitchell Glover was. He weren't ever any good for us. And yeah, his career was rubbish. But lots of other people had a lot of fun with Mitchell Glover. Oldest player, Danny Hurst, who was a goalkeeper we signed right back at the start, if I remember rightly. Yeah, look at him, he looks like a goalkeeper. So we never had a player older than him. Fastest goal, I don't remember Adam Coombs. Who on earth is Adam Coombs? No, don't remember you, Adam Coombs. Most goals in a match, Tyrone Marsh. Most assists, Piazza this season. 28 assists this season from Piazza. I mean, where are they then? All in the Champions League, I guess, because he only had 11 in a league. But 28 assists is insane. Most clean sheets, Vujicic from a few years ago. Most man of the match, Piazza. Youngest goal scorer, also Glover. Oldest goal scorer was John Ashton. Most games won in a row. We did that back in 2020. Only 11 games won in a row. That, for a team that's now won the Champions League, that doesn't feel like a lot. Most games without losing, 22, which we did in the Premier League, which is a lot more impressive. Most games lost in a row, also in the Premier League, I think. Games without winning, that was before my time. Games without scoring, 4 games without scoring 11 years ago. And 4 games without conceding, which we did 20 years ago. We'll dig into those in a little more detail in a second. Highest fee we ever paid was for Peter Tate, 37.5 million. Highest fee received was Joksimovic, 26 million pounds, and now he's home. Right, let's go on to the rest of the player records. So these were the goal of the season records. I'll let you look through them. I'm not going to talk you through all of those, but you see lots of names that we've already mentioned down that list. Most league goals in the season, goals in a match. Who looks still in there. The man's insane. Does it have... What I want is all-time... I want to see who's currently played more games for us than anyone else, but I don't think I can I? In fact, you can do it by filtering that to this season. Oh, you can't. It still doesn't show. I don't know who might break James Ball's record. We'll have a look at that when we do the 10 years in the future thing, I think. But the other thing to look at on records is player of the seasons. Fans player of the year. So there you go. These are the other heroes who honorary mentions. Jordan Nicholson for the first couple of years. Ashley Chambers. There's Mason when he was a hero. Dan Fisher. Skelton, Lee Weaver, remember him. Dan Fisher again. Chris Ruggles 3 years in a row. That's why he's on favoured personnel, I guess. Josh Sawyer. James Brown. He was the striker we got on loan from Celtic. How did his career turn out? I mean, interesting. Then the new Who era began. Jones, Joksimovic, Piazza. Piazza will just win it forevermore now. That'll do, won't it? That's all been really rather acceptable. If I missed out any stats, I don't think we've missed out any records or any stats or anything like that. If you're really interested, I can do another episode where I go through like who's won the World Cup, who's won the Champions League, that kind of thing. But we'll probably cover that off a little bit more in the 10 years in the future one, because it's more interesting going that far forward in the future. But what I want to do now in this video is just go through my shortlists for our team of the year. So, like I say, all the links for this are down in the description below, so you can vote in each of the polls. There's a poll for each position plus an overall player of the season poll. Let me know down in the comments if I've missed anyone out. I'll probably not know Adam in, but I'd be interested to know if I've forgotten a hero. But these are my shortlists. These are my heroes of the save. So the voting for goalkeeper of the series, we have 4 players on this shortlist: Vujicic, Linus, Harries, and Robbie Nadat. Because how could Robbie Nadat not be on the shortlist? At right back, I really struggled. I mentioned this when we were going through the team of the series thing. Coupler obviously is on the list, but who else have we got? To come up with 2 more, I've gone Ibrahim, because he's the best piece of transfer business we ever did. Signed him for a free, sold him for 600,000, loaned him back immediately for 3 years, and he was brilliant. And Reece Williams, because he's the first player we sold for a lot of money. So they're my 3 right backs. Who was the right back between Ibrahim and Coupler? Was it just a rotating bunch of nobodies? I don't actually remember who played right back for us through that time. Left back, there's 2 obvious ones. Joe Anderson. And then Joksimovic took over from him, basically. That was it. That's your 20 seasons almost. I've stuck Sretenovic on there to have a third, but it's pretty much been those 2, Joksimovic and Anderson, throughout most of the series. At centre-back, Josh Sawyer, obviously. Ripert, because he's Ripert. Laskowski, Brodic, Toraka and Day. I've put Toraka and Day on just so we've got 6 to vote between. I don't expect those 2 to make it into the team, but there's others that could have got on there from way back when. But really, Toraka and Day are better than him, aren't they? I certainly don't think Toraka should be in the team. He's only been with us a year, hasn't he? But he's on the shortlist, so vote for him if you want. In midfield, again, I've put a couple of unexpected ones in here to fill out a shortlist, but I'm fairly confident I know where this is going. So Skelton, Wanda, Sir Tom Elliott, Jay Johnson, because the game thinks he was brilliant. Caminero, because I think he's just superb. Ruzic, and then Tate and Miles Darwin, because we all remember his name, not necessarily for the right reason. At attacking midfield, we've got Serenok Nuhu, James Ball, and Jordan Nicholson. That is a difficult 3 to pick from. I don't know who I picked there. I picked Nuhu or Ball. I don't know. Let's see what you pick. And then up front, my 6 favourite strikers from this series. And remember, that is what this voting is. It's who your favourite was, not necessarily who was the best. Because obviously Joe Anderson isn't as good as Sretenovic, but I much preferred him as a player. So my 6 best strikers: Dan Fisher, Charlie Jones, Sedwin Scott, Chris Ruggles, Piazza, and Ashley Chambers. So vote for those, and whoever wins in each one of those, we'll put them into the team. We'll announce the team of the series just before the FM19 beta drops, along with our player of the series. And this is my shortlist of my 5 favourite players from the entire series, so we can appoint an official player of the series. So the nominees for player of the series for Backing the Boro: Sir Enoch Nuhu, Joe Anderson, Sir Tom Elliott, James Ball, and Dan Fisher. All the links are down in the description below. Let me know down in the comments if I missed anybody off. But we will leave things there for this video, because quite apart from anything else, I need to now stick this on holiday mode for 10 years so that we can have a look at this 10 years in the future. But before I go, there is obviously one other thing that we need to do. It's going to be a sad moment. Is it going to work? Do I want to resign as manager of Nuneaton and retire from football with immediate effect? It's been real, lads. We're done. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.